Hey there! Welcome to Retro Reloaded. I'm your host Lance, and each week I tackle a retro game shaped by your picks. If you want a chance to choose next week's game or unlock exclusive bonus episodes and polls, join me on Patreon at patreon.com/retroreloaded. There's even a free tier to dip your toes in. Big thanks for all of your love and support. It means the world to me. Now let's hit the start button and reload those retro vibes.
Listen to the legacy of Diablo II and the rise of Project Diablo II. Originally released by Blizzard Entertainment in 2000, Diablo II quickly cemented itself as one of the most influential action RPGs of all time. With its dark, gothic aesthetic, addictive, loot-driven gameplay, and atmospheric soundtrack, it set a new standard for the genre. The 2001 expansion, Lord of Destruction, introduced 2 new classes, an Act 5 finale, and a slew of new items, deepening the experience and solidifying its cult status. 2 decades later, Project Diablo II, PD2, emerged in 2020 as a fan-made, community-driven mod that revitalizes and modernizes the classic game while preserving its soul. Developed by a passionate modding team, PD2 refines balance, introduces new skills, reworks underused mechanics, and expands the endgame with seasonal content, mapping systems, and reimagined items. It continues where Blizzard left off, offering a fresh challenge to veterans and newcomers alike. Plot of Diablo II. The story begins in the wake of Diablo's apparent defeat, but peace is short-lived as a mysterious dark wanderer spreads corruption across the sanctuary. As one of the last defenders of humanity, you must track this figure eastward through the plague-riddled wilderness of the rogue encampment, the desert ruins of Lut Gholein, the jungles of Kurast, and into the infernal chaos sanctuary itself. Along the way, you'll face off against the prime evils, Diablo, Mephisto, and Baal, in a desperate bid to stop hell from consuming the world.
All right, with all that out of the way, we have 2 guest speakers today because my throat is still healing, so we're kind of just adding more people to the show to, make it to where I have to speak a little bit less, but it's still really fun. If you guys listened to the last episode, we had Donkey Kong Country 2, and it was actually came out pretty good. I thought it was like a lot of fun. My 2 guest speakers for now, actually funny enough, we're going to have 3 eventually, but one of the guest speakers had to get off work and has some things to do, but he'll jump in about like 15 to 20 minutes, so we'll see him in a second. But I wanted to kind of start the intro because we're all on especially me, I'm on a tight schedule today, but we're going to try to go for about 2 hours and talk about Diablo 2. I know these guys are big Diablo 2 fans. My first guest is going to be Scullion GDS. He's a graphic designer, a longtime gamer, and a YouTuber. Welcome onto the show.
Hey man, great to be here. So excited.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for coming, and thank you for participating. It means a lot. And then Adam, also aka Sickyo, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so you guys both have experience, I'm guessing, with Diablo 2, not only recently, but in the past. I know Sickyo replayed the game this last week as well, and I played the game a couple weeks ago because I'm a little bit, backlogged on my games. I was supposed to do it like this week, but everything's a little crazy since my voice thing. However, I kind of wanted to start with your guys' experience with Diablo 2 because I know this game has a lot of nostalgia for people, and I know it's like I believe the game was made in 2000. 2001. Yeah, it's gonna. I'm just gonna 2000 even.
Yeah.
Okay, 2000 even. So we're talking about 25 years. This is an older game now. I mean, it's definitely retro in my opinion. So, a lot of us have nostalgia with it. I played it when I was I think I was 12 years old when I first played Diablo, or 11, and I was playing it on Windows ME. Do you guys know Windows ME?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
it was Lord of Destruction that came out in 2001. That's what I associate the main release date with in my mind.
Oh yeah, LOD. So the big expansion, the one that everybody played basically. And
Okay,
so
I'm sorry. How old were you when you played the game?
I think I was 12 when I played.
12. Wow, your parents let you play that mature content?
Well, you see, back in Atlanta, my dad died when I was 12, and there's only one good coping mechanism for that, and that's playing the good old D2.
Yeah. just for reference, I watched Pennywise the Clown and Freddy Krueger when I was 5. So this isn't
nice.
This wasn't
we were Candyman house.
Yeah, those were much scarier than D2 and a lot more brutal. Those 80s movies were way more bloody and gory and stuff. So D2 was kind of So yeah, I kind of lived an interesting childhood. It was a great childhood. But so I kind of wanted to start with we're gonna start with you, Adam, and I just kind of want to ask you how you got into Diablo 2, your kind of your story behind the game. Are you still playing it today? And all that.
Cool. Well, I've been building computers since I was around 12. And when I built my first gaming computer, my mom was like, "Hey, we need to get you a game." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea." So we went and the first game that we looked at was Dungeon Siege, and I played the shit out of that. And then joined a gaming clan, and unfortunately they thought that my character was hacked. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to switch games, and picked up Diablo 2 instead because it seemed very similar. At the time, I think 1.09 had maybe just come out or not come out yet. I was originally attracted to druids because of shapeshifting, and I don't know, it seemed my sort of speed. I like nature things and felt right. So yeah, I was still in the same clan. This was Warrior Nation, or WNX as some people know it. And I had a bunch of friends that played barbarians, and I was like, man, you guys are strong. And I don't know. It was a very social game for me. I liked dueling. I liked hanging out with people. I liked leveling. And let's see, had a good Amazon. Played Bozon for a while. Had one of those cruel matriarchal bow of quicknesses. What else did I do? Had a cruel mythical sword of quickness on my druid. Got all into those old magic cubed recipes. Yeah. Had a inventory of 32020s. I think I had flesh render boots at one point, and bugged valor, all that stuff. But when 1.10 came out, they made Zeal and Concentrate both uninterruptible, but they didn't make Fury for Druids uninterruptible. So I jumped ship and made a Zealot, and just, I don't know, kind of cleaned house wherever I went. Yeah, Zealots were really, really strong in 1.10, and Paladins in general, honestly. I'm sure everybody and their brother had a Hammered In.
Everybody played the Hammered In, man. That's my one, that's my one gripe with not my one gripe. That's one of my big gripes with the original game, is that I felt like Hammered-ins were kind of the end all be all class of 1.10, 1.1, I think 1.1, I 1.2. Hammered-ins were just you could make one, and they could do bossing. They could clear Baal's throne room super easy.
They had great AoE. They had great single target. They had great defense with little investment.
It was and then with Enigma, they could teleport. So I was like, man, I don't want to Hammered-ins are cool. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't. It was only Hammered-ins. But anyways, go ahead and continue. It was one of my things.
Yeah, I had a secondary account that I made a Hammered-in on, and that was my rushing and bailing bot. because I hated playing Hammered In, but it was like you couldn't argue that it was the most powerful class in the game, especially with most of the leveling content didn't have immunities to magic, so you could just like stomp all over everything.
Right.
Yeah, that's
I
a
didn't
really
really
good
like
point.
dueling
Yeah.
as them, so fortunately, since I played in 1.09, I had those 320/20s, and I would just shift those around to any character that I was playing, and I usually played melee or ranged, so they were just always useful. For like, as far as the value of those things, I've probably I'd put easily 5,000 hours or more into the Diablo games, and I've found and re-rolled small charms to try and get a perfect 320/20. I've never done one. I've gotten really close and gotten like 319/19, that sort of thing, or 220/19, but I've never gotten a perfect one. And having a full inventory of perfect ones kind of makes your character a little OP. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I if y'all remember D Trades or D2 JSP, they both had melee dueling ladders. There was also PalaPK Nation that had a dueling ladder, and that was like the whole point of playing Diablo for me. Like, I had multiple 99s over the years. Didn't really have a whole lot of excitement having like a Holy Grail MFing sort of thing, because I don't know. I feel like the Diablo 2 Resurrected version that's going right now has a better MF system than we ever did back in LOD. But yeah,
What did
PvP was the fun part for
change?
me. Terror zones.
Ooh.
So they added terror zones that have a higher treasure class and a higher level. So you have a higher chance of finding the things that you're actually looking for.
Oh, okay.
You also, like, most people, when they're trying to chase 99, these days they'll have like a duo. There's one person that is the like the quote unquote host, and they're not actually doing Baal runs or chaos runs or whatever it is. They're farming the terror zone by themselves. And then the co-host is the person who is teleporting and taking people through the Baal run or the chaos run, whatever they're doing.
Oh, so they kind of like label it as a Baal run, but they have the friend actually farming on the side, so they get the 8-player differential that you get when you have 8 people in the game. You get like increased XP, increased drop rates. So that I can see. I see what you're saying. That's interesting.
Yep. That's how most people in D2R play the game past 95. Because trying to MF or gain XP past, say, 96 in base LOD is just it's pain. It's pain. Very painful.
Did they rework the classes in in what is it? D2R?
D2R Resurrected. They've made a couple tweaks here and they've added some stuff to the game, but for the most part, like anything you'd expect to be a powerful class or a not so powerful class is still the same. Like from Hammered In all the way down to Poison Necro.
Okay.
Or Poison Dagger Necro. Sorry, Poison Necros themselves are pretty strong.
Out of curiosity, what's your favorite version of the game?
Project Diablo 2.
Okay. Yeah.
As far as like multiplayer social interactions and like that sort of thing, I'd say Project Diablo 2. But the most fun I've ever had working on a character by myself and actually like going through content was this modified version of the game that was on the Frozen Keep forums that was like loosely inspired by Japanese mythology. What was that version called?
I know Project Diablo 2. I don't know the other one, though, that you're referring to. And I knew of Path of Diablo, which was basically the predecessor to Project Diablo 2. Very similar, but PD2 just did more.
POD was really good, too. Thing for another day. Anyhow, you could like, they added gem words and like all this stuff to the game. It was really cool. Like you could put, if you got a weapon and put a bunch of amethysts in it, it not only gave you the basic stats, but also gave you like attack speed and amplified damage chance and all this other neat stuff. Yeah. So favorite version was definitely Project Diablo 2. I started playing that in 2020, 2021, somewhere in there, because, we were all just sitting around at home anyways, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. During that time, everybody was sitting home.
Yeah. I was like, tell me to stay at home. Darn, twist my arm.
Yeah. For a lot of introverts, that was like their haven. So
yeah. I wouldn't even say I'm necessarily an introvert, but I don't know. I like my indoor hobbies too.
Yeah, I'm a both. I'm a mix. I'm kind of like almost not quite half and half, but like maybe like 30% outside, 70% inside kind of guy. So
yeah. I hear you there.
Yeah.
All right. So quick wrap up of my Diablo 2 story. During PD2, I found the melee dueling community, and there wasn't a Discord or anything like that yet. And I was like, well, why aren't we doing this? And they're like, well, I guess nobody's done it yet. I was like, okay, cool. So I made the melee dueling Discord, rallied everybody together, and we started running tournaments. It was a lot of fun. And it kind of gave me this, like, nostalgia is one of those things that you can chase and you'll never really like relive that same feeling. And that's the whole point of nostalgia, right? Well, when PD2 came around, and we had a rather large melee dueling community, I was like, ooh, can I actually touch nostalgia and make it not nostalgia again? And I honestly feel like I did it. Like, we had a multi-bracket, we had 3 different tournaments across the span of a season. There was an early, mid, and late ladder tournament. And the mid and late ladder tournaments were at least both streamed and narrated by Mr. Hollywood. And he narrated them like a boxing match. It was wonderful. And if you lost, you could go into the losers bracket and then work your way up and get yourself back into the winners bracket to fight, whoever's winning. And on both the mid-season tournament and end-of-season tournament, I won undefeated. And so I was like, well, I'm going to hang up my crown, and haven't touched Diablo 2 since then.
So you basically just left the king, and then you're like, all right, guys, see ya. Yep. Wow. Yeah,
I Michael Jordaned it.
You didn't. No.
Would you ever go back and, jump back into it if you had to, or if you wanted to?
Potentially, but like, man, there's so many other games out. Like, I jumped into D2R for a bit. I played Diablo 3 for a little while. I played Diablo 4 for a little while. I think that there's potential for Valheim to give that same sense of like looking for loot, building things, building your character up, and also dueling, but people need to look at it in a different way. And I'm also really looking forward to Light No Fire. Last Epoch's really cool. Path of Exile's wonderful. I played PoE 2 for a little bit. Like, if you're doing dark shit and murderizing baddies and potentially dueling, I'm interested.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say that back then, dueling was kind of like, when I first played, that was the only thing I cared about. I didn't care about bossing. I didn't care about Ubers. All I cared about was PvP, but I sucked. And my first experience was like open BattleNet. So I just got like insta-killed by some sort of cheater with some hacks that he walked out of town, and I just fell over. And I was like, what?
Oh no.
I'm like, how? And then they're like, do you want to be able to do this? And I was like, yeah. And they gave me, they taught me how to do the hacks and dupe and all that stuff. My mind was blown. The game turned into a duping game for me back then. Like, at least open BattleNet. And I'm not talking closed. I went to closed BattleNet afterwards after I got bored. But I basically turned into like a hacker game for like a good 3 months, which was super weird. It was like kind of a weird experience, but really interesting. Real quick, before we jump into your story, Scullion, I'm going to invite my buddy. He got home.
Howdy.
What's up, dude?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Yeah, so welcome in, brother. We just got done with Adam's story. He was telling us that he loved PvP back in the day when he first started playing, and he climbed to the top of this ladder that I think, did you create it, Adam? You created the ladder yourself? Or
like the dueling ladder?
Yeah.
Not in the original Diablo 2. There was one on D-Trades, D2 JSP, and a third one on PalaPK Nation. But when I ran a Discord for the Project Diablo 2 melee dueling community, it was a joint effort. Like, we all posted our character sheets and shared like information, and I really liked helping people level, because like, dude, if you're 99 and you're fighting with a bunch of like 94s, you're gonna have an advantage. So I'm like, guys, let's go level. Like, come on.
Yeah. So a Gage, do you want to we call you Gage for the episode, or alt reroll?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. You can.
Yeah, my buddy Gage here, he's been a fanatic of D2 since how old were you when you first played? You were like,
I don't know. I mean, I played Diablo. I remember playing Diablo 1 on like Windows 98.
Yeah,
man, that's what I'm talking about.
I don't know.
Yeah.
98. So maybe like 98. I've been playing since 98.
Forever ago. And you were also a very big PvP guy. You know, I remember you just loving that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Even in original Diablo 2. It's like the first online experience I had with like real people. It was incredible.
Yeah. And that was a big thing that we're going to touch on in this episode, is that I think D2 was kind of the intro for a lot of people to like online gameplay. And so that experience for them was like really huge. For me, it was RuneScape, but D2 definitely was no slouch. It was a lot faster. You know, the combat was way quicker than RuneScape, so it was pretty interesting. I enjoyed my time. Yeah,
it was a really good time. I mean, it was crazy getting to get on the internet and just talk to people and play a game like that. I mean, in comparison to playing your PlayStation or your Nintendo 64, it was just it sucked me in. Before MMOs, that was the start for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think people played Ultima too. I think Ultima was another one that was kind of like big, but
I never got. I might have seen images of Ultima. I think Ultima was like one of the OG MMOs or like online games, I would say, but I never really played it.
I don't know about everybody here, but one of the big things about Diablo 2 online when it, started was anybody could play on like dial-up and stuff too. So it wasn't like you were just, like EverQuest was only for people that had good internet pretty much. Anybody could play Diablo 2 on, a dial-up. I played on 16 kilobytes a second, which is horrible.
That was pretty much my introduction as well. Dial-up and waiting and just waiting. And my favorite part though was the lagging and then the crashing.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That's what I remember the most.
You know what I remember? Yeah, I remember like loading into games, and it's that doorway, that infamous doorway scene that you see when you're loading into a game, and you're just stuck there for like 10 minutes. You're like, am I getting into this game? You're like, am I going to load?
But you know what? Your attention span was way higher then. So yeah, it'll take another 15 minutes. I can go get up and heat up my food and come back and, got to go brush my teeth next. Oh yeah. And you could do things like that. Yeah. Now it would be aggravating for sure.
You can get your attention span back. You can do it. I believe in you.
Yeah.
No.
You got to delete TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Facebook Reels, and whatever else. I don't know.
Yeah. Lance knows. Get rid of that shit. Stop scrolling. Stop being two-faced, flipping your coin for your mood.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate those things. I wish there was a way to disable it, but I digress. Scullion, we haven't gotten to your story yet. How did you kind of get introduced to D2? Like, did you grow up with it, or was it more of a recent thing for you?
Yeah, well, I was already grown up when it came out. I think I was about 23 years old when that sucker came out. And just to kind of give you guys a little bit of context, at that point, I had already been playing Warcraft, StarCraft, Fallout 1 and 2. And then actually that's what attracted me about Diablo 2 right away was the isometric feel of Fallout. But the difference is it wasn't turn-based, so it was a lot more real-time. And just the whole clickety-click of the mouse made it a lot more exciting and a lot more action. Go ahead.
Did like the graphics blow your mind as like a 20-something-year-old? Because I always wonder that because, me and all my friends were only like 12 or something. I'm 34 now, so you're a little bit older than me. I was always wondering if, like, as a 20-something-year-old, if it was as exciting as it was when I was that age, because it was just so crazy to me.
Were you kidding me, dude? It felt to me like I just plugged into the Matrix. Everything was so realistic.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's what I was hoping, that it would be that exciting even for like a 23-year-old or 25-year-old back then, because it was so revolutionary, it was so good.
It really was. It really was. I mean, because you think about the bloodiest games that were out previous to Diablo 2, you got to look at like Postal 1 in 97. That was like the biggest, bloodiest, meanest looking thing.
Yeah,
like,
Postal.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. The original. And again, isometric top-down view, and you just start annihilating everything. But yeah, no, it was way ahead of its time, not only for the genre, but the graphics as well.
Yeah, just how it played, just how smooth it was. I mean,
very smooth, exactly.
Most people, when they thought of an RPG back then, they were thinking of like like Final Fantasy, a JRPG. They didn't even action RPGs weren't even a thing really. I think there was like Dark Stone. There was like Dark Stone on PlayStation. There was a couple games like it, but
a few. But yeah, no, I mean, but that was the interesting thing about it. And even so, I remember there was a little bit of a backlash from like the Christian community. They were. Yeah, it was a big thing back then. Imagine that. They promoted violence, occultism, the demonic imagery. Yeah, but the thing is, the game was so successful that a lot of people came over and defended it. Like, well, I mean, it's not really demonic; it's just action. Again, a lot of people came out of the woodworks defending the game, and I think that's what kind of helped it move itself along. And go ahead.
How do you feel the marketing was for it? Because I was too young to remember, like, what the marketing was. It like crazy, like Diablo stands everywhere and stuff because it was so big.
There were some stands. I mean, advertising was in comic books. You had your PC mags, stuff like that. But a lot of the way I got introduced to it was a buddy of mine said, "Hey, you remember Diablo?" It's like, yeah, it was a fun game. It was okay. And then he goes, "Got to play Diablo 2." Like, wait, no, I don't know. It was all right, but I didn't like it that much. Well, again, back then you got like LimeWire and all these other services. Here's a pirated copy. Try it. And then what do you think? Oh, okay. And it was that was it. It was just word of mouth, and it just took off from there.
Yeah, that's funny that you got it through LimeWire as your first time. Did you also get a Trojan horse along with the game? Because If I did, I don't know, but no. yeah, it's just one of those things. A little bit of backstory on that. I've done a lot of traveling prior to 2000, and a buddy of mine knew where to get the pirated copy overseas at all these other locations. It was interesting to say the least. That's awesome. So did you clarify you were in your 20s when you first played? That was what you said?
Yeah, I was about 23. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I just, the different perspective, like kind of like what Gage was referring to, because we were kids. I'm roughly the same age as him, just very, maybe like 8 months younger or something. So I was born in 91, so, when I was growing up and I saw things like the evolution of gaming with, 3D gaming, like Ocarina of Time, and then you had Final Fantasy VII, and you had all these huge blockbuster hits that just, came out of nowhere. You also grew up with like the from the NES to the Super Nintendo, the 8-bit to the 16-bit, going to something like Diablo 2. I'm wondering, like, what was the era that blew? I mean, this is a little off topic, but what was the era that like blew your mind the most? Was this it? Like, was it during this era, or was it like something else?
Oh, it was definitely something else. Yeah, mind you. I mean, I even started my journey way back with the Atari. Just 4-bit. It says 8-bit, but it was all 4-bit. We knew it. So the thing that was mind-blowing for its time was Mortal Kombat. That was the big one where, the graphics looked real.
Violence, yeah.
Well, yeah, and then you got the extra bloodiness, and you have the fatalities. Like, what is this guy pulling his face off and breathing fire on this other guy?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like Diablo got a lot of influence on how they made the game through Mortal Kombat, because what Mortal
Even
Kombat
the pixel
did,
style, yeah,
yes,
like the art,
pixel style, coloring. Yeah, definitely.
Because what they did, I think, with Mortal Kombat, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that they took pictures of real people in those action poses, and they like had them do those poses, and they kind of like put them into the game, in a way. And then I think Diablo 2 did the same thing. Did it not?
Yeah, Diablo 2 sprites the entire game, which is crazy. So it's like on a block grid that's how they programmed it, on like a block grid with sprites. So like it's just way different than anything else. Like everything's like a cutout.
Absolutely. From a developer standpoint, I mean, you're looking at all these different enemies that you're taking out. If you stop and you think about it, like you said, those are all sprites. This is pre AI, pre all the abilities that we currently have with like Photoshop and everything. We just click a couple of buttons and then it'll
there's no physics
recolorize. It'll recolorize everything for you. Whereas back then, that sprite sheet of the character facing this way, the character facing top right, top left, top down right, down left.
Yeah, and then they did
in every direction.
Breakpoints with sprites would have been really hard to do, like the different attack speed breakpoints. It's incredible what they did, where they actually the sprite actually moves faster, like the movement speed, like
So looking at it from that point, it was amazing. And the fact that they even had I think it was a year and a half of a crunch time to get it out on time. You're looking at the developers here going, again, bit by bit, sprite by sprite, one little block at a time. It's a hell of a project. It's a very heavy workload. It was. Go ahead.
I couldn't see a company being able to do something like that, and I didn't know it was a year and a half. I couldn't see a company be able to. I mean, we have more technology now, and it takes way longer. I couldn't imagine them building it the way they did from sprites in a year and a half, and have such a I know, because I didn't, I don't remember all the details when it first came out, so I couldn't really remember how polished it was in the very beginning, like Diablo 2, no patches, because I heard it was pretty rough. Maybe a little bit more about that.
I'll be honest. I was working with a Windows 98 machine with a CRT monitor. If there were glitches or bugs, I didn't know if it was my game or if it was my laptop or my PC. Man, I couldn't tell you.
Or the balancing.
Yeah. It could have gone either way. I gave Diablo 2 the biggest benefit of the doubt.
Ironically, some of those older CRTVs and stuff like that make the old games look better because they get rid of some of like the weird edges of certain sprites and stuff. So because that's a big thing in the retro community. People are like, you got to play this game on CRTV. You got to play this game on like, has to have scan lines. It has to have this. And I'm like, I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not going to go out and buy a 50-pound, 75-pound TV just to go play these old games and put it in my, in my small space. But I mean, I have seen filters like on, for example, if you have an emulator and you put a filter on, I can see what they're talking about, where it gets rid of like certain errors and stuff in the game that you wouldn't normally see. So, I mean, but so what was the version? So Skullion, you played this game throughout last week. What version did you play?
The original version, the original version, Diablo 2.
Okay, like the patch 1.10 or whatever it was.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So I try to keep it as true as possible to that original experience. The big difference is, I played on a Alienware laptop, and so everything runs way smoother now. So it was a lot more enjoyable this time around for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Project Diablo 2, they even bring it up to 60 frames per second or whatever. So it's like it runs so good, and they updated all the graphics, all the shaders. Like it's. If you haven't played Project Diablo 2, I would highly recommend a run through. All the builds are different. The rebalance. There's in-game content.
Check it out before you do that though, because if you really want the full experience of PD2, I'd do it when a league is starting. So you get to like join in with like everybody else picking up the game, and get to like go do tomb runs together. Like I don't know. That makes the actual experience for me. Personally. Yeah. For PD2, definitely. The season restart is good, unless you're going to do solo self-found or something. The economy, it's good.
No, for sure. Yeah. And for me, like currently, like I said, I'm trying to stick to that nostalgic feel. Because I even thought about buying Resurrected, and I was like, you know what? No, let me just bask in the good old days of just the grind.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can play Resurrected with the old graphics.
Yeah,
they have like
now I gotta go buy it now.
Keybind that like flips it one way or the other.
Yeah,
right on.
Yeah, that's right.
Got to go buy it now for sure. See, and I wasn't sure. I saw that one and I was going to buy it, and I was like, no, let me just go see this one over here. But no, now that you told me,
it's kind of like a cool aspect to probably like shift gears a little bit on you guys. But like, what do you guys? Everybody was talking about the PvP, and the PvP experience is so good. But if you really think about it, was it Diablo 2's PvP experience, or was it the fact that Diablo 2 was one of the first games online that had PvP and nobody had guides? So basically, you're as good as you are as a player. Nobody had all these guides to mid-max and tell them how to make the best PvP, what's best in slot and stuff. So I think that really affected the experience in PvP in Diablo 2 back then.
I'm just going to come straight out of the gate and disagree with you there.
You don't think so?
I'm going to have to disagree.
Yeah. There are tons of guides everywhere. They just were written. They were like on forums, but they didn't have like YouTube and stuff, so you had to read it.
The stuff that I found were the stuff that I found was on this ancient text called America Online.
I didn't even know. I had no idea where to find, so I had to like cultivate my own builds, and I had to remake my Amazon 8 times, before I really got it down to where I could own people.
Right on, dude.
I feel like there's a different experience. I'm sure there are people that could find the guides, but they weren't just like, right now it's just like you go to max roll for any kind of game. It'll tell you the best, this is the top person on League of Legends with this build, no matter what game you're playing. And I feel like the PvP experience has changed because everybody can just access that. And you're not just like, these guys figured out a really cool way to play this character, I don't know. I think a lot has changed because of that. I think that's
wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
I also agree. So yeah, there was guides back then, right? Because I had guides for Final Fantasy VII, but it was always in that weird like text format where the whole web page was just a full text, like it was like a notepad. It looks like a notepad.
Yes.
But it wasn't like a lot. It wasn't widely available in the sense that everybody went and looked at them. That everybody was like. People, when they were playing games back then, not everybody was like min-maxing the entire time. They were doing kind of like a lot of people were doing what Gage was doing, where they were experimenting with builds. They were trying to figure out like what worked. Yeah, maybe you had some of the elitists that were kind of like doing the guides, like I'm not going to mess this up. I'm going to make sure my character's like the best that it can be. But I don't think like that's something that's kind of got lost to gaming probably in like I don't know. I want to say like late 2000s, that when it really started hitting the market, because I remember even playing something like World of Warcraft, vanilla WoW was very Wild West. It felt like the Wild West where everybody was just
absolutely
doing random builds and random gear, and nobody really knew what they were doing. Everybody was just kind of figured it out, and eventually something like stuff like Wowhead came out, but it was or not Wowhead, Thoughtbot. Yeah, and so like. That's something that's dead to gaming. And I think, for the PvP portion of Diablo 2, there probably was a lot of people who just like, okay, I have this character that I built. Let me see if I can, let's see if I can kill somebody, and a lot of the time it probably didn't work. Some guy who happened to know what they were doing came in and took their ear,
Because I had played for
what I would like to do is while leveling. What I would like to do is while leveling, I would leave like 200 or even 300 stat points on like just unallocated. So that way I could go, with my friends who I'm not like worried about, me or anything. I could go duel with them and see what my chance to hit was and see how much damage I do, that sort of thing. And then distribute my talent points after that, or my passive points after that.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a real quick question to you guys? So based on your experiences with, and I hate to say, preface it with this way, but as young as you were playing this game, now for my experience, it was mind breaking. It was all this. However, ... At this time, I was putting myself through college. I was getting and I had my own job. So whenever I could jump in, I could get in where I could. And it's interesting hearing your experiences, and it seems like you guys were way younger than I was at the time. Is that what made you guys better gamers in the PvP department? Because that's one place I stayed away from because I sucked. I didn't have enough time.
It was time. Yeah, you had responsibilities. I was in high school.
Yeah, probably. You know, that's what fueled my like. I kind of like stopped wanting to play single player games once I got that taste for PvP, because I got into a clan, and and then we all PvP'd together and we fought other clans. Like, it was just an incredible PvP experience. Like, I loved it. We had so much fun. And then we were all like, doing stuff like you were talking about with builds and stats and trying to figure out the best thing. Unique stuff that nobody had ever seen. Like, I made a hybrid poison Javazon that would swap with a faith bow that had and just finish them with a guided arrow. Nobody had ever even seen that before, and I could beat hammered-ins with it. So people were like, "That's crazy," and I could kill hammered-ins in our clan. I was like the hammered-in killer. It was pretty cool.
We were talking.
So
about
you
that
probably knew about. You knew about the IGA strat then too, right?
Maybe I don't know. What is that?
If you have a greater sense of where your enemy is, and you're like 3 or 4 screens away, and you're pummeling them with guided arrow, you can, when it's at that distance, it turns it invisible, so they can't see it and they get hit by it anyway.
Yeah, so that was part of it. Yeah, so you would throw the clouds up everywhere, and then it would reduce them to 1%. So if you had a hammered-in teleporting around, well, he would hit that cloud, and for sure. And usually they didn't have as much poison resist as it, and it would just lower them. And then I would run with a guided arrow. And like you said, you can't see the guided arrow off the screen, and they would just die. They would get so mad.
Yep. You could do the same thing with charge as a paladin.
So I've been coordinating with all these players I've never met before on BattleNet, and chances are it was probably you guys. And I'll just be like, okay, I'm the barbarian. Here I go.
Oh yeah, it's rough if you got into like playing against people like that are in a clan, like someone like us. It was like I was like 12, 13. I'm playing like after school and on my weekends, like every day.
Man, you guys gave me the hardest time, but no, it was great though, man. It was so many good memories though.
But I run into that now at my age. At 34, I'm like, I get on these games and I try and keep up, and there's just no way.
Yeah. I mean,
unless it's Mario Kart 64. Mario Kart 64, I will loan you, but beyond that, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's just.
I feel like me and Gage's generation we're like the last generation of boomer gamers, because we got a little bit of that PvP taste in middle school, but these kids that were after us were starting like when they were like 4. They're like in games like League of Legends or online game, just exclusively online games. Fortnite. They're playing Fortnite at like 4 years old, and they're just destroying people. And they get that PvP sense like from early on. So. It's kind of interesting to see how kids are more and more PvP oriented as the generations go. Just because you have more accessibility, it's like there's every game has some sort of online feature. Not every game, but a lot of these games always have some sort of online feature. So
the big PvP pull for me was in the late 90s. It was Unreal Tournament. That was the big one for me back then.
Unreal Tournament was very good. I think that was one of my favorite shooters. That and Red Faction back, in that time frame was Unreal, and Red Faction, and obviously Counter-Strike.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, Counter-Strike came out the same year as Diablo II.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
I remember being
I went to a technology what would they call it? National Youth Leadership Forum on Technology. It was hosted in California around that time, and they had an entire room of this huge convention center set up for people to either set up computers, bring their laptop, or install something on a computer that's already there. And they had like a huge Unreal tournament that was going on, and I think I was the only guy that brought my D2 discs and installed them on there.
Hey man,
people walking by, I playing D2.
Me and Lance there was a church where we grew up, and they did a LAN party like once every couple months. It had nothing to do with the church. They just let us use this building, and it was like $10, and you got a slice of pizza. There was a competition. Did you go to the one that I won that Counter-Strike competition, Lance, and I won the power supply?
I wasn't there, no, but you told me about it. That sounds... Yeah. I mean, that must have been...
back in the day, you do the same thing. It's just like what you're talking about. You'd all LAN up, and then you could just share all your like illegal games that you got. The virtual ROMs from everybody was crazy,
That's so
I don't know. It was just different times. Yeah, and you're like LANed up with like 50 people, so and there was a lot of guys that are like 28, and I think me and Lance were like I don't know, 17. So these guys had a lot more access to way better stuff. It's pretty cool.
I think that was also one of the things that made D2 like so popular, was that the fact that it was such a good multiplayer game. You know, like growing up, you can hop online with your friends, or you could LAN party, like whatever one you wanted to do, and you guys could all make new characters together, or you could, you know, have your strong character run your friend through, you know, like low level stuff or whatever. But you guys could all play together, and it was like really easy, and it had a whole messaging system where everybody could chat, and it was like a really fun multiplayer game. And I think that's just something that really also helped it grow so much, was the fact that it was so multiplayer driven. I don't think it's like the friendliest multiplayer game, but I think it for its time, it was like one of the best online multiplayer experiences that you could get. You know,
no. I would say that it was the standard. I mean, BattleNet by far was leaps and bounds ahead of everything, and just the fact that it's able to make all that happen with dial-up, holy cow!
Yeah, because they had Warcraft. You know, people were on BattleNet doing Warcraft at the same time, and StarCraft. So they had three just
StarCraft,
bangers going on. You know, they had these three bangers just going on. All these like online multiplayer games where people were just losing their mind on all of them. You know, like I think that those were probably you would know better than me, but I think at that time those were probably the most popular games out for computer on BattleNet. Like those games, like maybe Valve games.
Golden Age, man.
Yeah. It was a good times.
So
it was great for PC gaming. Yeah.
So I'm going to start with you, Scully. Can I call you Scully? Is that okay? I didn't even say Scully on. Is Scully okay? We'll call you Scully.
It's your show, man.
I mean, sure. Scully reminds me of Sully. He's from Monsters Inc. or something. Yeah, that's funny. But what is your favorite class or build in Diablo?
I mean, it really depends on the feel. I enjoy the sorceress, paladin, but I always end up playing the barbarian anyway. So I'm just stick with what I know, really.
Okay. Yeah.
And the PD2 experience you would love, because all the classes are rebalanced to where, you know, sorcerer and hammer don't feel so strong. Like everything is so good. They have so many builds.
Yeah.
No,
it's exciting. It's a fun game for sure.
The sorcerer is always
good experience. D2.
I think I agree with you. Like for if you're going to play it in the modern day, like PD2 stays faithful enough to the original where you don't feel like the game is like different, but you also get new stuff, you know.
And quality of life is huge.
Yeah, and as far as the sorcerer class goes, Scullion, I think like that was like the go-to class for most people to start up their new season, just because it was like the class that could teleport. It was the class that easy clearing. It could do Mephisto relatively easy without any gear. You know, it was just that class that could get you started for the season. And for me, it was oftentimes like a class that would help me build other classes. And that's kind of like, you know, sometimes I would start with another class, but I always would regret it because I'm like, this would have been much faster if I just started with the sorcerer, because the sorcerer could easily magic find, you know, and get all that gear.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Gage? Do you have a favorite class, or are you kind of just, you know,
talking about classic Diablo 2?
How about both, the original and then PD2?
I would say like Diablo 2, Lord of Destruction, like classic. I mean, I always liked the Fury Druid. Like once you got all the way up to having like an ethereal Breath of the Dying Zerker, like 4 PvP, 4 PvE. Like that character was so strong and nobody knew about it. Like I loved that character, but so that was probably my favorite character. I don't know.
Okay.
Or a rabies druid. And PD2, man, that's tough because, you know, there's literally like hundreds of builds. I mean, I'm always partial to the summon necro though. I mean, the AI is so good on the summons now. Like it's fun. I mean, there's just so many fun builds. So, you know, there's so many builds I haven't even tried. I always go back to the assassin. It's always fun, you know?
Yeah. That's the thing about PD2. There's so many classes. There's like so many viable options.
I know. I want to still beat Rothma this season. I just, you know, I've been busy lately. So kind of took me away from it. But I want to get back to. I still like have my characters. I want to try and beat Rothma probably.
What about you, Adam? Do you have a favorite class?
That's a tough one because I have favorite classes for different things. I think my favorite class to level as, like, to start, a new league or whatever, like controversial as it may be, is Barbarian. Sure, you get teleport with Sorceress, but as Barbarian, you've got battle orders, you've got all the other shouts and stuff, so you're useful to all res. Yeah, you've got natural res, you've got better stamina. Like just the things that you get from the class itself are wonderful. Plus, there's a lot of relatively cheap gear that gets you started.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say.
It's just a fun class to play, like every so often I feel nostalgia for the game and I look up a YouTube clip of some barbarian shouting. And if you're talking about MFing, Trav runs are so productive as a barb. Like it's arguably the best way to get started. I remember when 1.1 or 1.10 came out with Enigma, and I was like, wait a minute, I can teleport? Okay, I'm throwing this on a barb and I'm fucking whirlwind telestomping people. And they're like, wait, are you hacking? Oh, wait, barbarians get to teleport too? Oh, shit.
Yeah, barbarians were one of the hardest classes, like a really good one in PvP. I feel like
sir.
One of the hardest classes to beat, and they had different ways, especially if they wore a shield.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will say my experience the past week, I've been diving in there with this barbarian. And I got to say, I am enjoying it quite a bit. Yeah. Just building my whirlwind, to the extreme. And it's been fun for sure.
For melee dueling, I prefer Zealot though over Conquerb. When you're doing click and hold, you just can't beat Zeal. It's too good of a class to do it. Plus, if you build it right, you can wear different gear sets for different opponents to get an edge. So if you're fighting casters, like any fire, lightning, or cold damage, you can throw on like a Sanctuary shield and Chains of Honor, Ravenfrost, Dwarf Star, Chi Gods. Like there's so much stuff you can just easily swap in and out. And you get so much more resistances from your gear. But playing like by myself just to see the game itself, that's Fury Druid.
Yeah, dude. That's what I'm saying. That Fury Druid was fun, huh?
Yeah, especially if you have an upgraded Ribcracker with a shale in it, you hit 4 frames with that. You get a F Tomb Reaver with Zod and 2 4015s or 2 shales. You hit 4 frames with that. You can hit things from like 4 or 5 range, and there's something about a 4-frame Ribcracker with this like thwack, 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 that like you can't replace it. You can't replace that feeling. And my only complaint about D2R was that when they redid the sounds for Ribcracker, they messed it up. Okay, man.
So I gotta ask. So did they like balance out the enemies in D2R, or is it the same as the original? Whereas, like, if you time it right, or at least what I've been doing is I'll hoard as many of the enemies as possible, and I'll just start like double tapping, double slicing, and just turn everyone into Julian fries within a matter of seconds.
What do you mean by balancing?
I mean, do they have? I mean, how would I say this? So again, with the original, you can have every enemy follow you around all over the map.
Oh yeah.
If you don't kill them. So in the newest version, the R version, do they balance it out where they have, a set vision where they stop following you and they turn back around and go the other way?
No, as far as I'm aware, it's the same way as it was in regular Diablo 2 for as far as like how far they'll follow you. Because I'm with you. One of my favorite memories was running around through cow fields as a barbarian, like making this huge herd so that like my team could tackle down 100 cows at once.
Oh yeah.
Something about just wading through enemies with whirlwind while like some Amazon is shooting from across the screen and Sorceress is hitting him with frozen orb. Like, just feels good, man.
It does. It really does.
I need to ask something about Diablo Resurrected. Somebody, when I was asking people on Reddit about, Diablo 2, something that came up, and I'm not sure if I understand what they were saying, but they said, is there some sort of pay to win feature on Resurrected? Is that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Dude,
That,
as long as gear is tradable, there's going to be pay to win because people are going to make communities where people can buy items.
Yeah, if you can actually send in $10,000 to Scullion GDS at PayPal.com.
Yeah, that's not really what I was referring to.
Or 10,000 forum gold.
I thought it was something that Blizzard had done because there was something people kept mentioning, and I don't know exactly what they were talking about. But
talking about the auction house. So
go ahead.
Yeah, in Diablo 3, they upon release they added an auction house so that they could try to cut back on what people were going to do anyways, which is trade for items using money. As long
when did Diablo 3 come out? Was that like in 2008?
I feel like that sounds kind of right.
2008 or 10, or was it 2010?
I feel like it was 2012.
2012.
Okay.
2012, May 15th. I remember I took a week off with my WoW buddies, and we just we binged the shit out of that game, dude. I think there are multiple nights where we didn't sleep because we were afraid that if we got disconnected or if we logged off that we wouldn't be able to get back on. So we just keep drinking coffee and just try
Sounds
to keep
about right.
Me and my buddy stayed up all night, waiting in line to get it. We got it and got home and got that error and couldn't play.
Oh wow! So then my Diablo 2 was your Diablo 3 then.
Yeah.
So I was in my 20s. You guys were in your 20s by that time. So what was that like for Diablo 3 to come out?
That launch day was that week of the first, Diablo 3 launch was one of my favorite moments in gaming ever. I had this really good WoW guild. We were in the top, I'd say 5-10 man guilds in WoW in the world. We were on Mal'Ganis, and when Diablo 3 was announced, we're like, hey guys, y'all want to take a week off and just beat the shit out of Diablo 3? And I think we had a group of 10 or 15 people that were all playing it, and yeah, it was a blast until we hit Inferno, and then only range was viable.
Yeah, that difficulty spike was unreal in the beginning.
Dude. You had to get gear from Act 3 to be able to beat creatures in Act 2, and you couldn't do that farming Butcher in Act 1. So if you were playing a monk or a barbarian or anything else that was melee, I hope you like watching your corpse be flung about on the screen because that's all you're good for.
Yeah, I didn't play it, so I don't really know. I had a lot of friends who played it, and they got some pretty high up on the ladder. One of our friends, me and Gage's friend, I think got really high up for a demon hunter or something, but I don't know. I don't know anything about that game really. So one thing I wanted to mention about Diablo 2, and this was I think another big thing about it, was the trading system. This game taught me, RuneScape taught me how to trade. This game taught me how to trade with on speed. Okay, this game, me and Gage joke about this sometimes because the way trading worked is you would create a game with the name of the item that you wanted or that you were selling or whatever, and then people would come into your game and they would say WUW or WUG, and you would have to. Yeah, it'd be WUG or WUH. And you would have to respond within 0.5 seconds or that dude was out of there. He was not wasting his time. He's dude, nope, I'm not. See ya. So you had to get super fast at typing. They'd be well, what do you, what you got? And you'd have to list 10 items super fast. So it was a really interesting trading system, but it was fun. And it kind of taught you how to not get scammed because people would try to, lowball you, or it was kind of like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, but the prototype,
I learned how to do finances and manage my budget from playing video games. My parents didn't teach me that.
Oh, wow, man. So that makes sense. Now I get what all that was about. I had no clue. Man. I had no clue.
I got scammed so many times on Diablo 2 because I was 12. These older kids would hang out with me for a while and we'd be friends. And they'd be like, hey, man, can I use your account while you go to school? And I was like, sure, dude, just, don't steal my account. And they would steal my account every time.
You must have been friends with my friend Ryan.
Dude.
I swear I got like a third of my gear from my friend because he would go into like just public games and be like, hey guys, I figured out how to dupe. You have to type this command. And in the command was like some kind of whisper to him with their account and password. And he actually got people to fall for that shit. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I got a crazy one for you. So if you make somebody, you tell somebody to take all their gear off, put it in the stash, and then you tell them, you say, I got to kill you 20 times, and don't pick up your corpse, and you kill them 20 times. This is a bug in the game. And then you tell them to put all the gear, and you're like, all right, put the gear on, and it'll duplicate all your gear. And then they go out, and when you kill them on the 21st time, it will drop all their gear on the ground. Just straight up just drops all their gear on the ground.
And then their corpses are all over the place.
Yeah.
So they can't pick up the right one.
People try and scam you over the wall.
Oh,
man.
God.
I remember one time I got a map hack, and this guy told me to get it, and I got it, and then I loaded it up, and it took control of my mouse and dropped all my gear on the ground. I got scammed so many damn times on that game. Like, it's unreal.
See, for me though, it was the fact that the Matrix came out a year before, so I kind of figured, no, I'm not going to trust anything I see online, man.
Yeah, right? you were smart. You had that adult wisdom at that time. Us kids were just getting scammed left and right.
Yeah.
Oh,
I guess.
Wow. I got scammed in RuneScape a lot, so it kind of taught me not to get scammed as much. I did, I think I did fall for one in Diablo 2, and then I just like stopped believing people. I think they had me drop something. I can't remember what it was. It might have been a rune word or something. I don't really remember, but yeah, it was very interesting.
Man,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, same planet, different worlds, man. Holy cow.
Yeah, I mean, when you're a kid, it's just either your perspective's totally different. You're not used to that people are so malicious yet, Well,
especially back then, you're not used to even people weren't aware of people on the internet. We didn't know the way people would act.
Y'all didn't grow up in my house with my traumas. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I mean, I heard about the predators and stuff on Yahoo Chat when I was like, 10 or 11, like don't talk to strangers or like don't give them your address or whatever. I would talk to strangers online in Yahoo Chat, and people would be doing the ASL, and I was like, 11, and I'd always pretend I was older. I was always like, yeah, I'm like 14 or 15, and I was always like looking for girls like around that age, when I was just looking, like doing the MySpace thing later on, ASL, yeah, and I guess like you have to be careful because some of those people are pretending to be, back then, but. It's funny how that Diablo 2, Yahoo Chat, like these things kind of taught us how people operate in the world in a weird way. But yeah, it was very interesting. The trading is really cool in this game because the items, basically every item, and I think this is one of the good points about the game, basically every item is tradable and every item is equipable by almost anybody in the game. There are certain, stats, for example, that are class specific. But you can, take a piece of armor from a different character, like a different completely class, and put it on to another class entirely. And I thought that was like one of the big like points of the game and one of the strong points. I mean, how do you guys feel about that?
Well, 100%. That was the big draw for me. I was like, oh, wait, I can just, lob this scepter or whatever it is I had in my hand, in any, again, it felt like it was the first digital version of my Dungeons and Dragons experience, growing up as a teenager.
Did you ever play Neverwinter Nights? Never. I thought that game was pretty cool too, because I feel like that would have been, but I still like Diablo 2 better.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's funny though because. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I was kind of sitting here thinking about like the original question of like, did I like that everything was tradable? And I mean, in a sense, yes. Like. Path of Exile is the same way. Yeah, I mean, I think just giving people the ability to do what they want with their gear makes the game more fun.
Yeah, and this is one thing.
I like trading my gear up. Like, I love that.
Like up as in like getting something better.
Yeah, like I had this crazy strategy to get rich, and it worked every time. Like because you could trade, I would trade for I would get a really nice Enigma, and then I would trade my Enigma for a Chains of Honor plus something. I'd find somebody that wanted an Enigma or wanted and they had a Chains of Honor, and I'd be like, yeah, just give me like the Chains of Honor plus, maybe like a little bit more, and I would just do that back and forth because there was just always a need for it, and I would just make tons of money. Like there were so many people, and that's all I did. Like it just worked super well. Like so, I think like having everything tradable is pretty cool. Like that was just my own little unique thing, I
also like being able to like iterate on my own gear. Like I'll get something that is like the best that I can find at that point, and then like a month later, I find something that's just a little bit better, so I get that, and then I sell the old one.
Yeah.
Well, I have to ask. So, did you guys ever like form up your own groups, or is it just that you're coming in and out of different organizations, different groups, different bulletin boards, so to say, to acquire gear, to level up, to advance your character a lot more?
A little bit about
when you were first playing him.
I got in a clan, and so when you get into clan, you have to put the clan you have to basically make all new characters, and you put the clan tag in front of your name.
What clan were you in, dude?
It's called TMM, the Malignant Minded.
Huh.
I don't know.
Not the Malignant Minded?
Maybe it was it. I don't know. It's so long ago.
Because my experience, it started off with like 3 or 4 of us. We started just banding together. And then slowly as we progress in the game, we need an extra player. We need this, we need that. So we just started building from there. And it was just like this, this small band of us. We really didn't have anybody outside of our group. We weren't part of clans. We weren't part of any of this. So hearing you guys talk about it is just so fascinating because that's a totally different experience from my experience. A lot of it, like I said, a lot of it before is just like, oh, hey, we need you to play this character. All right, I'm in. Boom. And I'll just sit there and I'll play. Majority of the time I was a barbarian, and I was fine with it because a lot of it was just all of us either it started off with our backs to each other in this square room, and everyone's plugged in their PC, and it was super hot, let me tell you. But then eventually we ended up getting like a huge dinner table, and we're all facing each other. You see him? Yeah, I see him. And it's just this back and forth where we're just sitting there communicating in the same room.
Yeah, so I was always envious of people like you because I never had people. I never knew people in person that played the game to the level that I played it. I would have killed for that, man.
Again, college. That was my college years. So, I'm pretty sure there was plenty of action going there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking for other people to play with, and that's what made me ravenous for community, and that's how I found a clan. That's how I found D Trades. That's how I found D2JSP. That's how I found, even in game, I would go and I'd just scroll through and look at like there was always just a game called Melee Duels, or there were Baal runs, and while we're doing stuff, farming the same boring ass content over and over, I'd start chatting and. Once I start chatting, then people are like, "Oh, I want to chat too," and we just start up a conversation and become friends. And like, you want to join my guild?
Yeah, they're replacing LAN parties. Like I say this all the time to my friends that face-to-face interaction is not the same as online interaction. Like online interaction for me is it's a happy settlement. Like it's a compromise. Like it's like, okay, we can all basically afford to get online and, interact online. We all have work. We all have some of us have kids. Some of us has this and that, but we can all kind of get online and play a game together for 30 minutes to an hour to 2 hours and then get offline. But like the face-to-face interaction that you would have like at a LAN party was just, it was so much, there was so much more energy in the room. Like you would just have like, you would see everybody's facial expressions. You'd see people's gestures. Everyone's like, yeah, is getting excited. Me and my friends, we all got together and we did a LAN party of World of Warcraft on a private server. It was like the dumbest game you could play, but it was so much fun, dude. We're all laughing. We're drinking Mountain Dew Baja Blast or whatever it was, like the World of Warcraft Mountain Dews, with the Alliance and the Horde. And
hell yeah.
You just can't replace. You could not replace that. And a lot of people might not know what that is, but go ahead.
Yeah, remember the Warcraft 3 LAN parties that we had with the custom maps with Hero Line and stuff?
Oh yeah, dude. It was fun.
Yeah, remember? We used to that was so much fun.
It was so much fun. It like the LAN parties, like just you can't replace LAN parties. They were much more of a hassle. You had to like get this big desktop, and you would have to get like your monitor and like sometimes your speakers or whatever, and you'd have to like load it up in the car, and like it was super kind of awkward and heavy, and you'd have to hook it up, and then getting the LAN to work was sometimes a pain. Like somebody's computer, like one person's computer wouldn't work for whatever reason. And so we were always struggling with that, but yeah, it was awesome.
You blow a breaker in that room.
Dude, I remember
blowing a breaker in the room, like you run out of power.
Or gets hot
for the room.
Dude, I put my CRT big ass monitor on the back of my dirt bike with my tower and strapped it down with my backpack on and drove over a mountain to my buddy's house.
We had a couple guys with some minivans, and they did all the big hauling. Otherwise, we just took our own gear in our own car. Wow, that's funny.
Yeah,
it's so funny. What we ended up figuring out is that if we brought along one of those, super long extension cords, we'd plug into that extension cord, and then we'd plug in across the house into a different breaker unit. And then the same thing with the other end, and the same thing with the other. And that's how we got around tripping the breakers that much, man.
That's smart.
Yeah,
at least you did that.
I never had the LAN parties, but like many years later, I had a partner that lived with me that was like, "You put all this time into Path of Exile. Like, I like watching you play, but can you teach me how to play?" I'm like, "You ever played any video games before?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, "And you want to learn Path of Exile?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." And dude, I taught somebody who never played video games, who self-admittedly said they had gorilla hands, how to play Path of Exile. And that was actually a really fun experience because she was also terrified of spiders. And what do people like to put in dark ARPGs? Lots of spiders.
Yeah, spiders are a very common theme in these games, funny enough. So I kind of want to start going into some of the good, the bad, and the mix. So we talked a lot about a lot of the good stuff. You know, we talked about the trading system. We talked about the multiplayer, and there's a couple of other good things I want to mention here. So one of the good things that when I went back and replayed Diablo 2, one of the good things that I like to, and this is always the case for me, is that the game is really fun and chill to grind. Like it's like a chill and grind game. Does that make sense? So it's like one of those games you can kind of hop on, you can, play for 30 minutes to an hour, and you're just kind of going through it. You're chilling, you're killing monsters, you're getting drops, like you're just relaxing. And this game's not like a sweat, like unless you're doing PvP or like bossing. Like if you're just doing like killing monsters, like the game is really super chill and fun. And I think that's like one of the good points. I mean, how do you guys like to play? Are you guys more bossers? Or are you guys more like chill mapping type of players, or like what?
I'll go. So while leveling, I usually find like an area that just feels good to grind in, and I'll do that over and over again. Usually, if it helps, if I can find a group to do it. So lots of Tristram runs, lots of Tomb runs, lots of Chaos runs, lots of Baal runs. Even just like, I don't know, what areas would I run over and over? I liked Frigid Highlands a lot. Just like there's something about like running through, saving the barbarians and all that stuff that just, I don't know. Every time I'm leveling a character, I want to do that by myself. And I mentioned in chat, I feel like there's lots of areas where you can just kind of get into a flow state, where you like the environment you're in, you like the enemies you're fighting, and you can kind of sink into your character and just not really think about anything, like you lose yourself in a task.
And maybe I should have rewrote my good point, because maybe what I should have said instead is that this game is you can play it in many different ways. Like I think that's the good point. Like you can do the fun, chill, grind mode, or you can be the sweaty PvPer, or you can be the sweaty bosser. What about you, Scullion? How do you like to play this game?
Explorer, map maker, charter. I just like to move around, and you hit the tab button and it automatically pops up the map, and like to fill it in. As crazy as that sounds, that's kind of my jam.
Yeah, so you just like to explore and kind of get the whole map filled out. Yeah, that's an interesting. I haven't played it like that in so long, like where you just kind of like slowly like level up. I kind of want to go like when I replay the game, I kind of want to do that. Like just kind of like you actually experience the quest lines, you know, you actually experience the story. Because a lot of the time when I play this game nowadays, it's kind of like I'm just like trying to get to the highest level and just do the hardest content as fast as possible, like mapping and stuff. What about you, Gage?
Right.
How do you like to play this game?
I like to play with my friends and argue like a bunch of idiots over who gets loot.
Yeah. Just argue.
That's how I usually play about it. Try and steal each other's loot and then argue about it. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Usually me and my buddies are just competing to get ahead of each other because that's just what we do and trying to get more rich. So whatever that like path happens to be, you know, I actually haven't really went the bosser path, but I'm thinking next season I'm going to go something that can do like a budget bosser and just try and straight up only make money off bossing because I've never done that. I'm always usually hitting the maps and PvPing or something, or just trying to make like meme builds or something like crazy build that make it work out, you know?
Right. Yeah, so yeah, bossing's fun. I've done both, a little bit of both. I never did Declone. I never did in Project Diablo 2, I never did Rothma. I never did the new guy, Lucian. But I did do Ubers, you know, and I did do Ubers. And that was fun, you know, it was a lot of fun and it was very rewarding. It felt very accomplishing. You definitely get a dopamine when you're able to kill these like super hard bosses in the game. A lot of people would disagree with me that, you know, Ubers aren't hard, but you know, if you don't know what you're doing, they're kind of difficult. I'm not that great of a D2 player. I would say I'm very mediocre. I don't even think I would put myself at average at this point. I think I'm below average as far as like skill wise goes. But yeah, it's fun. One of the bad points I put down was that, and I think this is just a product of the times, and it's partly because there's like an accuracy to your character, but sometimes the game can feel like a little janky sometimes. Like maybe you should be hitting an enemy, but you're not actually hitting them, and you're kind of like swinging and missing, and I think it was a deliberate design. But
so no, that does happen a lot. They still have been working bugs out ever since they made Project Diablo 2. They have found out so many things that where your character just was never hitting character, like just straight up not hitting anything, like, and nobody really even knew. So what you're feeling is actually true.
Okay, I thought it was just me. I was like, what is that like? Because it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen occasionally, and you're like, why am I? Should I?
You had to move.
Yeah, maybe it's like this square you're on or something, and you have to like move. Yeah.
It happened in melee dueling a lot. So if you're like swinging and just missing, and the other person's hitting you or the enemy's hitting you, if you use the walk run toggle and just use walk, you are allowed to block while you're walking. And then if you move just like a step away, it'll usually reset the way you hit or miss, and it allows you to hit.
I will say, from a game development perspective, it's all based on collision. And so what it might be is just the code, the math of the actual contact of the sprites, and that kind of determines whether you hit or miss, quite honestly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's part of why I also like leveling as a barbarian, because you can use whirlwind and collide through things.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so I always thought that was just a me problem. I'm glad to know that I'm not just crazy.
No, that was universal.
That's universal. It's pretty standard. Yeah.
The worst thing that can happen in PvP when you're melee dueling too, because it meant that you had to walk to be able to have a chance to hit, and sometimes when you walk, you get smacked.
Okay, that's so interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's a product of the times. You know, I can't. For what it did for its time, it was great. But you know, obviously, there's going to be things like this that are going to come up. And so another one of the good points that I wanted to bring up is that those dopamine hits. when you finally get something that's worth the value and you get that dopamine hit, it's like winning a casino slot machine. Does anybody else feel that way?
Absolutely.
Oh, dude. I've hit that slot machine. I'm like, I'm about to go to bed, and I hit that, and then I'm up for like another 2 hours. I'm just like riding it. I found that burr rune, dude.
I think that's a pro and a con of the game as well. because on the one hand, yeah, you get those dopamine hits. You win a duel and you're up for however much longer. You get you get a good drop, that sort of thing. But I think it also made a lot of the community members very toxic because they're obsessed with their dopamine train and trying to fulfill addictive behavior, and it can turn people into I'll just say lesser versions of themselves.
People turn into jerks. That's what happens. You get the pellet, you want the next pellet. But I mean, again, totally different experience for me. Dude. Yeah, but understandably so. I mean, that's the kind of the point of games like this, where it's about the content that you get out of it. The same can be true, when you talk about that Bungie game. I'm drawing a blank here. What's that?
Destiny.
Thank you, Destiny. All the drops and everything. Same thing. It's that dopamine rush. But I think again, just the different experience for me, it was just like, oh, okay, I got this craft that's worth 25,000 gold pieces. I'm trading it in. And that's pretty much where I started going from exploring to just hoarding as much gold as I could.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, I guess there is a pro and a con about it, because I guess one of the cons would be that some of the items can be really rare, but I don't mind there being really rare items. And there's also items that are kind of worth like medium amounts. And so I don't know, I think it's fine.
Yeah, dude.
I think that, go ahead.
This season I found a vial and that was crazy. That's crazy.
And there's certain items that are just like 0.0001% drops, and then you get them and you're like, what the, maybe some of the items are a little too hard to find, because I've heard of the infamous Zod rune. Like, people have like played it for like 25 years and they still haven't got a Zod rune.
I've never found a Zod rune.
I found one.
Yeah, like 12.
Totally. I think I've found like Cham or Bear though. I've definitely found Zod, found Ja. And that kind of goes into why I didn't really like MFing, because the dopamine train wasn't as consistent. But if you're dueling, it's pretty consistent because you can, duel people constantly. Also, if you're rerolling charms, there are level ranges for individual charms, like small charms, grand charms, etc., that have a higher chance of rolling certain mods. So, for example, if you're going for a fine small charm of Vita or 32020, if you farmed charms from Crystalline Passage or Frozen River, you had a higher chance of re-rolling them into those mods, because it would cut out the modifiers that would roll on higher eye level charms. So I'd collect small charms and just, collect gems and roll them up and see what I get. I've rolled a number of fine small charms of Vita that way.
See, it's interesting, is there's a lot of nuances like that. Like, oh, if you farm it from this area, or if you go to this area, like, there's no way you would ever know that in game. It's something that you would have to look up. There's no way you could know, as far as I know.
Map Hack allowed you to do that if you used it.
I don't think I ever used Map Hack. Well, maybe back in Open Battle.net.
They would just put the eye level next to the name of the item. It's a default thing in the PD2 mod.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things in this game, and I think that's maybe one of the bad points, is that there's a lot of things in this game that you have to do research on. Like, you can't.
I think that's a positive. I love that, man.
You like that about games?
I love hidden shit, like frame rates and stuff. If you didn't know like your breakpoints and all that stuff, like, yeah, I loved that stuff. I think we it goes into the argument about new games versus old games. Like, think about it. The quote-unquote endgame content for Diablo 2 is running the same boss over and over and over again with your buddies. And it was fun. We did it for years. People are still doing it right now. But like, then, Last Epoch or Path of Exile comes out, and people are whining and complaining because they don't have enough endgame stuff to do. Are you kidding me? Have you looked at the monolith system for Last Epoch? If we had that back when we were playing Diablo 2, where would we be now?
Yeah, I don't mind the unlimited in game, or like the I don't even mind a complex end game. I think my point is that you have to go to these outside resources in order to kind of discover the information. So like the information isn't readily available in the game. That's kind of my gripe. And I have a lot of gripes about, any game that really does that. And there's always going to be games like that. But for Diablo 2, there's so much information out there. You can find it nowadays. It's just the fact that you have to. How do you feel about it, Gage?
I'm not really sure. I'm not sure.
I think that's a pretty darn good point. But again, given the context of when the game was released versus now, where like you said, all the information is readily available, you had to do a lot of digging for all that. And I think for me, that's part of the lure of games like this. I mean, because you can Google now your answer of what it is that you're looking for, but back then you had to ask somebody who had to know somebody who had to know somebody, and again, just that trail, it leaves an impression on you. Yes, it leaves that impression on you.
Yeah. Like now, like what is experience in a game now? Because I can go see, the top streamer posting exactly his build when he's put in thousands of hours. I'm never going to put that much time in now. I'm never going to compete with that person. But back then you didn't have that. So even if you put in a fair amount of time and you were pretty decent, you would own something like a skill, that you had learned, based off, your experience of the game, because people couldn't just go look everything up and see the best way of doing stuff. Even guides weren't necessarily always the best. There was people that were doing unique things because they just had to play to find it out. Now it's kind of not so much like that. So I don't know. So like having outside, having to find, get experience to get that information is kind of good, or getting like outside information and having to really seek that out, rather than like now it's just kind of given to you in most games. Like I feel like everything is just given to you.
Trailblazing. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. Most people aren't going to be a pioneer in a game right now. No,
not at all.
It's impossible.
No, you guys were the pioneers when that game came out. That's what I'm talking about.
I was just a noob. I was a noob. But yeah, it's interesting.
I think I was the first person who put a min rec jewel in his highest strength required helmet so that he could save 30 stats for vitality, but maybe I was.
Yeah, you might have been the first person to do that, come out with,
How do you,
let alone the first one in your neighborhood, in your circle,
Okay. Yeah, when I played that Plague Javelin, I never saw somebody ever play that build ever. It's just experience. Took a long time.
How do you guys feel about swapping items for stats? So, for example, you have Heart of the Oak and different things like different shields and stuff that you swap, or even armor. Like you swap on this gear, you do all your buffs, swap off the gear.
Like pre-buffing?
Yeah, like pre-buffing. Is that something you guys enjoy?
Yes.
I mean, it's right. It's one of those things. It's good until it's not.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
I think my friend called it, what is it? Necessarily tedious or something like that.
Yeah, like some builds, it's really annoying. I don't know. I don't love it.
Okay, if it's just a weapon swap, I'm okay with that. Just quick, like one button. But like if you're going to your Spanish and putting in all this entire different gear set and then coming back out, I honestly think it's bad manner. Like especially if you're using it for PvP.
Yeah. So
for PvP for sure.
For PvP, definitely. It's something that I always kind of had a gripe with, like having to have two. I don't mind having to have two separate sets of gear for different types of content. That doesn't bother me. I think it's the fact that you have to have two or three separate sets of gear. Like one's like a buffing piece, and then it's like your mapping piece, and then your bossing piece. I think the pre-buffing to me is kind of like, I almost wish the way they would have done it is that the moment you take off that gear, like it no longer works. Like I don't know how they would have had to code that, but you can only get the buff up to the amount of stats that you currently have equipped.
You have to. You're advocating for removing snapshotting, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah,
but
yeah. So he's talking about getting rid of, so you couldn't snapshot anymore.
Yeah, you put on your plus skill level gear, and then you use the buffs, and it stays active for that until you buff again or the buff duration expires. You're advocating for if you take the gear off, the buff is de-leveled.
Exactly. That's kind of what I would have preferred. I think that would have been more appropriate. It just seems kind of unnecessarily tedious. Not to mention you have to get super expensive gear to even do it, like to do it correctly. But some people, maybe that's what they like. They're like, oh, well, that makes the market more, like you can sell more items that way. You can sell more Heart of the Oaks. You can sell more, whatever. I don't know. I think it's just kind of an old system, and I don't think it's for me. It's not relevant anymore. But
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. The system was great for when it came out. I think tedious was the point for the replay value. Obviously, that's not the case today.
Okay.
I mean, I guess it's also kind of like anybody remember Reckoning Bombs from World of Warcraft?
No. Which ones were those?
So Paladins had this ability in the protection tree where if they are victim of a critical strike, it allowed them to get an extra swing. And prior to a certain point, you could have some rogue with worn daggers come over and hit you while you're sitting, which would just automatically crit and not do a whole lot of damage because you're using a low level weapon. Well, those reckoning charges would stack up over time, and they didn't have a expiration time, so you could just stack up 1,000 extra attacks and just go one-shot Lord Kazak.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, that was a bug that they had to, or not a bug. I guess it was a feature at first, but they removed it. Yeah, I do remember. That was crazy. So that was just something I brought up that I think could be fixed. Maybe even for Project Diablo 2. I don't think they'll ever do that because they try to keep the game mostly original for players.
Yeah, I feel like snapshotting in ARPGs is just like that feels like a fact of the game for some reason.
Yeah, I guess if people want a snapshot just to like mid-max, like let them, but like just as long as you don't make the content make me feel like I need to be snapshotting, because I hate doing it. I hate like putting different gear on and like, putting your Shaco on and stuff like that just to get the plus skills, and then summoning your, whatever you're going to like. You can do that for like summoning your shadows, and you put all your plus skills on and then summon your shadows and then swap your gear, but you still have the higher level shadows.
It's kind of like if you put some kind of fuel additive in your gas tank. You got that fuel additive in your gas tank until you're out of that tank of gas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. To move on to the next point, how do you guys feel about the graphics? Do the graphics hold up to the modern day? Are they still decent, or do you guys kind of think they're dated?
I think Project Diablo 2 is actually really good because it has like an old art style, but now that it's 60 FPS with the updated lighting and shadows and everything that they did, I think it actually keeps up. It looks like a old game that is modernized,
Well, I'm going to be honest. I kind of feel like, if you look, if we're talking about the original game, the original graphics, yes, it's all dated. But for me, that's the charm of starting to replay it now, is that it just has that old reflexes of my brain thinking, okay, I remember this, I remember that. It's just that nostalgic feel. Yeah, and it's the same thing as, right, it's the same if we were playing Mortal Kombat, or if we were playing Street Fighter, like the original ones. Those are going to move a lot slower than the new Street Fighter games out now. But again, that's the whole point, is just getting the feel of the graphics. I mean, for their time, it was unparalleled. Pushing that many sprites on the CRT screen was incredible. And now it's real easy for all this for all that processor power to churn it out. On such a small stature.
I like the look of a lot of things, but the thing that I didn't like was like the fire and lava and stuff. I had to turn the gamma down on my game because it was like I felt like it was burning my retina or something.
Holy.
on Project Diablo or the old Diablo 2?
Either one.
Yeah, Project Diablo has that VX thing that you can change the contrast of the color, which is awesome.
They may have added that since I've played the game. It's been a couple years. for me.
Oh, they've added so much, man.
For me, it feels dated. I've played a couple of these retro games that I think they still hold up. Like I think the old Mega Man still looks great, and I think like Link to the Past still looks great. But yeah, D2 just something about those type of graphics for me personally. I think it's just the style. It didn't age well. I don't think it's the worst. It's definitely, especially with PD2, they make it pretty reasonable. If you load up LOD, like the original LOD on like an old system, you'll definitely notice the difference. It's like,
oh yeah,
it's pretty big. But yeah, they're not. I think it's just the art style is not an art style that I would consider timeless. But I think it's fine. It works. I think I kind of wish PD2 had the option to try out the resurrected graphics. I think that would be really cool. But I know that's probably never going to happen.
Yeah,
oh wow, man! You're seriously going to hate Fallout 1 and 2 when you play those, man.
Are those the same art style?
Yeah, that isometric view, top down. Yeah, the only difference is that it's turn based and it's going to drive you nuts.
I mean, hey, I can live with it if the gameplay's good. I do with D2, but it's just it's one of those things. Certain sprites really hold up to me, and other sprites are like, yeah, well, not so much.
Yeah, which is why it's fascinating to me, man. I mean, again, this thing was like a mature game when it came out compared to what we have nowadays. Holy cow, dude. I mean, think about it. Back then, you had like Majora's Mask and Perfect Dark, that came out for the console. And then here you have like all this bloody mess and all these, zombies getting split in half and, piles of bones everywhere from all these skeletons. So again, it's a very positive experience in terms of quote unquote the gore for its era, which is, again, I think for me is laughably so much fun watching those sprites just unload on the screen.
Yeah, man. Andariel was a pretty cool boss for a 12-year-old. Tell you what.
Oh boy.
Man, after all these Andy runs, I was really looking for a SOJ, but I think we need a break.
Yeah.
I'm feeling something down there, Mom and Dad. What is that?
Yeah.
What about the music? How do you guys feel about the music?
Timeless. Oh, I love the
timeless.
music.
I think it's timeless too.
What about you,
I think
Squillian?
Still thinking on that. No, I definitely agree. It's one of those things. You hear that, you think Diablo. You hear another track, you think Mega Man. You hear another track, you think Super Mario Brothers. This is just one of those where, oh yeah, you feel that evil coming. Time to nut up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you were going to say something, Gage?
I was just saying it was really good. I'm pretty sure they spent a ton of money on all the music too. It was a pretty big thing. I think Diablo's music just kind of, people listen to it now on their podcasts, their streams. People play it for background. There's some
every D&D group. There's some version of that out there already.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think the music is pretty timeless. I think it's pretty nostalgic. It's not my favorite soundtrack, of all time or anything, but I think for what it was going for, it did really good. Like it built the atmosphere. It made you feel like you were on this journey of importance, and it's creepy because there's evil about, and you can just feel that through the music. Like things are not right. Especially that like rogue encampment music, and it's just
yes.
It's been a while since I've even like all these newer games. To really think about it, they're not like Diablo or Zelda. Like they kind of got away from getting those like the music like involved, and I don't really know why. I actually can't really think of a newer game right now that I played in a while that had like really good music besides like Risk of Rain 2, which is an indie game.
So out of curiosity, what would be like your favorite music?
Man, that's hard. I have a special place for Mega Man music. I freaking love it. I think Mega Man music is so good. I think the original Donkey Kong soundtrack is also super, super good.
Original Donkey Kong, Mario saving.
No, not that. Sorry. The Donkey Kong Country.
Donkey Kong Country. Got it.
No, not the little beep boop beep boop. Not that one. But yeah, no, Donkey Kong Country. So those two are the first ones that pop into my head that I can think of that are just like some of the most timeless music. There's a ton of tracks on Final Fantasy VII. I'm a If you guys haven't gotten the hint yet, I'm a total Final Fantasy freaking fanatic as far as 7 goes, fanboy or whatever.
Yeah, we know. We listen to the show. We know.
Yeah, if you listen to the show, you're gonna know everything. Tetra made a comment like everything's Final Fantasy to you. I'm like, I know, but yeah, there's a ton of soundtracks on that game that are just that hit me right in the feels. So they're super super good. So those are 3 of them, 3 games that just come straight to my mind. That would be like some of the top soundtracks of all time for me. I mean, are there any games specific? I know that's not Diablo 2 related specifically, but are there any games that you guys would consider like number 1 or 2 or 3?
Shadowrun by far. Not even hesitating. Shadowrun for the Super Nintendo.
That's a game I haven't played. I'm gonna have to play that.
It's
game of all time.
Cyberpunk, sci-fi. Yeah. Yeah, all time. Why not?
Even if you think of like Metroid and everything, like the music just used to be way better in games. I don't know. I don't really feel like the newer games have super great music.
Oh, you're talking like best music. I missed like a word from your original question. My apologies.
Music, soundtrack, something catchy, timeless. What's timeless to you? I think is what the question is. You know what? I'm going to say it. The original Donkey Kong.
I'm going to have to say Dungeon Siege. I mean, after Diablo 2, when
all right, all right.
When I was a kid, I grew up in Atlanta, and I read about redwoods in California, you know, being the biggest tree and how these magical forests existed, and I just had this like imagery of it in my head. When I was an adult, I had the opportunity to drive through that area, and before we actually got into like a thicker, you know, redwood forest, I pulled off to the side of the road and queued up the Dungeon Siege soundtrack, and then went through the Avenue of the Giants, and I cried because of how beautiful and how impactful it was for me. And playing that music while I was on that drive, I'll never forget that experience.
Yeah,
and the music just made it for me. Good old Jeremy Soule.
There's some great soundtracks out there. Okay, I have a couple more bad points I'm going to mention real quickly before we go on to the Reddit comments and rating the game. One of the things I don't particularly like is having to manually refill up my belt with potions. I think PoE had a better, if I can remember correctly, PoE had a better system for this. But anytime you die, you have to like refill your belt up with potions, or anytime you use your potions in your belt, you have to like put more potions in there. Do you guys like that mechanic? Is that like something you enjoy?
I personally do, quite honestly. I mean, that was the most realist part for me for the game. You know, something that you had to manage. It was just one of those little added difficulties to the thrill of the game for me. So I actually did enjoy it.
I would say it's good all the way up until the idea of like when you get into Ubers and now you're putting your like Herodric cube in your inventory, filling it full of rejuves, throwing it on the ground, you know, like because you're going to run out of rejuves and filling your whole inventory full of rejuves. I think it gets a little crazy when you're doing those in-game bosses. I think it's like one of those things that's like complex because it's clunky, you know, not complex because it's fun. I kind of don't like that.
I agree with you there. I was also one of those weirdos that put portal scrolls in my belt.
There you go.
Oh, just
right. No, see,
quick access.
Yeah, because it's it's just quicker to hit 1 on your keyboard than it is to like put in your inventory or switch your skill. And sometimes, dude, you got to get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah,
that's pretty good on a hardcore.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like for me, that was part of the thrill is keeping track of your inventory, and for me it dates back to like the early versions of Dungeons and Dragons, you know, where it wasn't like how it is. I don't know if you guys play, but the 5th edition, it's very nerfed compared to the grind that you did early on. And so in the earlier versions of Dungeons and Dragons, you had to keep track of your inventory. You had to watch what you were taking with you, and you had moments where you had to drop things and pick other things up. And so for me, that was one of the lures of, you know, games like Diablo 2, where you had to watch what you were taking in and really figure out what is it that you really need to take with you.
Yeah, they used to have the Iron Man competition to see how far people could get, and it was just basically you can never go back to town.
I loved those.
Yeah, like you couldn't go back to town, so if your item broke, it broke. You can't repair it. Like you better be having a backup. The Iron Man stuff was crazy.
What was your favorite Iron Man class?
I don't know. Probably a summon necro.
I like Javazon.
Yeah, Javazon wouldn't be bad, especially if you got Titans.
You can't get Titans as Iron Man. Yeah, it stopped at level 9.
Was it level 9? Oh, I thought it just goes as far as you can go.
No, level 9. At least the ones that I played, you started a hardcore character. Everybody in one game go level 9, and when you hit level 9, that's it. So my my strat was to get to the blacksmith and get the malice so that I could imbue a set of javelins.
Just run to it super fast.
Yep. You can dodge a wrench. You can dodge a hammer.
Nice.
What? So, on to the next bad point. There was one more thing. Oh, the respecing. That's one thing I really I feel kind of mixed about. I think it's more of a bad point for me than it is a good point. So in this game, for people who may have not played Diablo 2, I know most people listening to the episode probably have, but in this game, you only get to, I think in the OG Diablo 2, I don't know, you get like 1 respec. I don't remember.
No.
You don't get any, right? Zero in the OG.
No.
You get 0 respects. And in PD,
0 respect.
In PD2,
I don't think you get any respects in the original game.
Yeah, you don't.
And then in PD2,
you get 1, just 1.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. 1 and then done. Yeah.
I didn't even think you got 1. I thought you didn't get 1.
I don't think you get 1 either. Yeah, because I remember that was why I re-rolled sometimes. Yeah. I would like uncover some kind of strat and be like, oh, I need 20 less strength. That's, 20 vitality I don't have. Guess I need to make a new character.
Yeah, I know. See, I remember it was like early on, like, oh yeah, what's this? Oh, re-roll, cool. Then all of a sudden, oh crap, I can't do it ever again.
Okay, so maybe there was, maybe there wasn't, but in PD2 they kind of remedy it in a small way where they say, okay, I guess it's in a big way, but it's still not easy. So you can they give you, I think, 3 free ones, and then after that they give you an item which you have to farm pieces for, and it's quite expensive. I think the full item is like 0.5 high runes to get. Is that right, Gage?
It's like a goal rune, 0.25.
0.25 to 0.5, something like that, which is not super. I mean, 0.25 is much more reasonable, but it's still pretty inconvenient because I think it's like you have to get these essences, and then you get the essences from the boss, and then you can put them together, and you can respec. I like games that allow me to, I guess, at a cost is fine. So like World of Warcraft, like the gold cost was probably like the most intense that I could handle. So in World of Warcraft, just for reference, you would pay a gold,
100G,
then you'd pay like 5 gold, then you'd pay like 10 gold, and then you'd pay up to like I think it'd go up to 50 was the max. So like, was it
100 or 100?
I thought it was a 50. Maybe it was 100.
50 sounds right to me.
Maybe it was 50. Yeah.
But it kind of expensive, but it wasn't game breaking. It wasn't like, it was like, oh, you better think about what you're doing, not so much as like your character's completely ruined. In the OG game, if you messed up, I mean, like, you better start a new class, I guess, or whatever, if you're trying to do in-game content. So I think that's a really old mechanic.
Yeah, it was really hard for new people.
Yeah. I mean, you could get through normal mode with any spec, but getting through hell mode is completely different.
I think that was part of the replayability, right?
Sure. I mean, yeah, you would have to replay the game if that's what you mean. I mean, what else are you gonna do? Run more Baal runs? I get, yeah, maybe, but hell mode in the original game was hard if you weren't getting help from other people. It was pretty difficult. Killing Baal was like kind of an accomplishment in the original game, unless you're building like the perfect class. But eventually you know what you're doing, and you look up guides and you follow the guides. But back in the day, if you were just like kind of freeballing it, man, you could easily mess up your character. And that includes not only the talents, but the stats, both of them. And I think so do you guys prefer a game that punishes you for not thinking, or do you prefer a game that gives you a little bit more lenience in something like that?
Give it to me raw. Give it to me hard.
So you're a hardcore player. All right, Adam likes the hardcore. What about you guys?
No, I didn't like hardcore. I just, I wanted to be. If there's no risk for your decisions, then what's the reward?
Okay. How do you feel about it, Gage?
Yeah, I think that I don't want a free respec, but I don't think I want. I mean, it's changed because I'm older and I have less time to game. But like I'm totally fine with having to pay to respec, but I don't want to have like in an action RPG. I don't like having to completely redo my character. Like in Path of Exile, you don't have to completely redo your character. In Path of Exile 2, you don't have to. I like, but it costs. There is a cost to respecing, and I think that that's fine. By like a high cost, but not. So like Project Diablo 2 right now, I think it's actually a perfect amount to respec. I think because it should hurt a little bit.
I agree with you there. Like I don't think it should just be free, but it's finding materials. I like finding like the bits and pieces that you have to do to assemble the respec.
Yeah, and you might just have them anyways, right? From just farming.
Yeah, it gives you something to farm and grind for too.
Yeah, just some extra.
What about you, Scullion?
I would say if we're talking about Diablo 2, currently I'm playing it as a casual player. So casually, I guess I wouldn't mind. But if it was more of a hardcore, again, having a LAN party, having my group of guys, my people, all of us rooting together, pulling together. Yeah, it's definitely a different experience. So yeah, no, that's a doozy of a question. I like that.
Okay. Yeah, and it would really suck if you're like in a LAN party and your character just sucks and you can't do anything about it, and everybody else is like picking up your pieces. Yeah,
and you're dead weight, or you're just the little guy with the coconuts, behind everybody, tapping them away, making the horse noises as everyone else is trotting along. Yeah,
it's not like you can re-roll and catch up.
Right. Yeah. So then what do you do? Yeah. So yes. Wow. I could go either way depending on whether, again, casual or if it's in a team environment. But yeah, it would be nice to have that option, where you could reroll.
Okay. Yeah, and that's how I feel. I think I don't mind having a cost. I want the cost to be. I'm okay with it hurting a little bit. I just don't want it to be like, oh, dude, like I'm gonna have to farm for 3 days to do this. I don't want that to be the case.
Yeah. However, now, again, as I'm playing on Lone Wolf here, I wouldn't mind the grind because I can just pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down, and I know my goal.
Right. All right. So, let's go into the rating. I'm trying to think about how I'm going to rate the game out of, because 1 out of 10 is a little boring. There's only 3 bosses in the game, so that's a little boring too. That's like too low of a number. There's 4 acts. 5 acts. I guess we could do 1 out of 5. There's 5 acts, right? So let's do it.
There were 6. Is it 5 or 6?
5.
5. Okay.
5. So we're gonna do 1 out of 5. I'm gonna have you guys rate it first, and then I'll rate it at the end. So Adam, how about you? What do you rate Diablo 2? 1 out of 5. I mean, not 1 out of 5. Out of 5.
5. Okay. People are playing it 25 years after it came out. 5.
So perfect score. Okay. Is this your favorite game?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I'd like to say that there's other games that have trumped it. I've put like 2,000 hours into Valheim in like 2 years. I've put thousands of hours into Path of Exile. Like literally like 4,000 hours on Steam and probably more on the standalone client. But I am 100% positive that I've put more hours into Diablo 2 than any other game.
Okay. That's amazing.
Oof. Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. What about you, Gage? What do you give it out of 5?
Are we talking about me rating Diablo 2 LOD right now, or are we talking about me rating Diablo 2 LOD when it came out?
Right now. Today.
Right now. So it's hard for me because like I don't think I could tell somebody that had never played Diablo 2 LOD Classic to play it right now, because I just don't think that they would have the nostalgia for it, and I think it's too old. Right now, I wouldn't play it because now I think Project Diablo 2's kind of spoiled me. But I mean, I'm on the same page. I've been playing Diablo 2 since it's been out. Still, coming back to it and playing it and finding a mod to play it. And then so I mean, I probably put more hours into League of Legends and stuff, but I think that, I would give it a 5 because, I mean, here I am still playing it, still enjoying it. I still, which is crazy. I mean, that's a lot of years to still play something and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So 2 perfect scores. That's the best that's been on the show so far. What about you, Scullion?
Give it a 1. No, just kidding.
Even it out. You out the playing field.
Yeah, even it out. Yeah. No, quite seriously. Again, I'm in the same camp. I've played it when it first came out, and I replayed it recently. I'd have to give it a 5. In terms of back then, the other big games that came out in 2000 were Deus Ex, The Sims, and Counter-Strike. And then thinking about pushing forward into 2001, now you're looking at Grand Theft Auto 3, Civilization 3, Max Payne, Devil May Cry, some other games that came out. Halo. These big blockbuster games that came out back then, and compared to those, I mean, Diablo 2 still holds up. And especially now that we've been talking about it for this long, it holds the strength of the replay value. It holds the strength and nostalgia. The colors, the sound, everything that makes it old, I think, is what gains it. It's following, what pushes that needle along to get that number 5, as a good game would.
I think one of the craziest ways I could think about it being a number 5 in my mind is we all still play Diablo 2 and enjoy it, but when Diablo 2 came out, throughout all the years they had, I don't know how many games, Torchlight, Titan's Quest, Grim Dawn, you have so many games like Diablo, Last Epoch. You just have all these. I mean, I could list off, 50 games that they tried to replicate Diablo and tried, but nobody is still playing any of those games 25 years later. We have Project Diablo 2. I think it just cleans Diablo 2 up and puts us just playing it 25 years later the way with more content, which is crazy. None of these games have done that. So that's why, I don't even know a game that has done that. That's why I would push it to a 5.
And not to say that it's that direct link, but just knowing that it's kind of the same genre as a game as Baldur's Gate 3, where you have that isometric top-down view. I mean, we're looking at
Nox
against some pioneering
Arcanum.
Stuff.
Yeah. They all tried it. Nox, Arcanum, they all tried it, but they just never even came close. There's so many.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So 555s. That's amazing. You guys aren't going to be happy because I'm not going to give it a 5, but so
interview was over.
This. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Now I'm going to feel kind of bad, but
I guess we gotta hang up now.
No. Go ahead. Yeah. Right.
I think we'll just drop call.
All my every Patreon subscriber just goes away. They just leave. Yeah.
I'll see you guys on BattleNet, man.
So basically, I do have my gripes with the game, and there were the things that I mentioned that I think that I just can't look past, the respecking and stuff. And I'm not talking about PD2 here. I'm talking about the OG game. And I think that the game is still if you went to replay it today, I think you'd still have fun with it. I think that you could still enjoy the grind. I think you could still, it's still a good game. I just think it's not a perfect game. That little janky when you should be hitting stuff, swapping the stats for the items for stats, the manual. There's just these little things that kind of add up to make it not perfect, but it's still really good. So if I had to give it a rating, it would probably be a 3.5 or 4. What's a 3.5 turn out to be? Is that a 7, out of 10 or something like that? I think. Yeah, I think that's a 7 out of 10. 3.5 out of is and I think that's where it belongs in my for me personally, is a 7 out of 10.
Okay. So I got to ask.
Yeah.
Without a decimal, what would it be? A 3 or a 4?
Without a decimal, it would be a 4. If I had to, I'd round it up. I would round it up.
I think that's pretty fair. Honestly, it's a fair take, especially if the action RPG isn't your genre. The only reason, I said, I'm speaking from it is because there's literally 100 games made after it trying to replicate what it's created, And I've never seen a game aside from like World of Warcraft, or EverQuest, I guess. I don't know. They kind of had that same idea, but I mean, World of Warcraft was the pioneer of that too. And look how many MMOs tried to replicate it. But here we are still today. Everybody's still buying a World of Warcraft expansion. You're not buying a Rift expansion.
Right.
It's kind of the same idea. Like if a game can push that long, that many years, it's pretty crazy.
And that just goes to show how what a quality company Blizzard used to be back in the day. They were just making banger after banger after banger. They were creating games that were literally timeless, that people come back to every single year. And the same thing goes with, like you said, classic WoW and D2 and StarCraft. People are still playing StarCraft.
There was like Age of Empires and stuff, but they came into the RTS, field and just completely dominated that too. With both of their RTS games, they were both incredible. Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, and StarCraft. StarCraft 2 is debatable, but
this definitely falls in one of the legendary, gaming categories for sure. And I think you can go back and play. I go back, I'm like you were kind of saying, I'm not a big ARPG guy, but I can go back and play D2 and I can still have fun with it. And I can still enjoy my time with the game. And I think that, especially with the music and the story, we didn't even talk about the story. The story is still decent too. It's not a bad story. I think everything holds
cinematics up. Almost even hold up nowadays, which is crazy. The cinematics for D2 were really good.
Yeah, for back then they were amazing. So a solid 3.5 out of 5 acts. Very, very good game. I would recommend that you reload it if you wanted to play it. We've got about 2 hours into the podcast, so maybe we'll just do a couple of the Reddit comments. We won't do too many. So do you guys have that pulled up? I sent it into the Discord chat. I'll resend it just in case.
Would you recommend Project Diablo 2 now, do you think? Or would you recommend Diablo 2 Classic? For someone that never played before.
So it would be Project Diablo 2, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't know about Resurrected. I haven't played that, so I can't speak onto that. But if you are interested in playing Diablo 2 for the very first time, Project Diablo 2 is like basically the way to go. It's gonna have way more quality of life. It's gonna have the same gameplay, basically the same gameplay, but you're gonna have way more options for classes and skill, like different specs. So I would 100% say Project Diablo 2.
Wow. See, I would say go with the classic, just to go through the grind, because there's something to be said. If you're playing Super Mario, on an emulator or even on your own Nintendo Switch, but if you still have like an old NES and you plug that sucker in, there's some good feeling when it comes to holding that little bitty little controller with the 2 little buttons, man. I would say play classic, just go all out.
Okay.
Even with the grind.
So if you're trying to like live in history, yeah, okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to experience it like it originally was.
Honestly, since you guys hadn't played Diablo 2 remastered, but I did, that's a good way to go that way too, because I would say it's much closer to the original experience as far as like the grind is exactly the same. The monster strength, the builds are almost the same, but it takes out the jank of like, why is my character just for some random frame not hitting? It plays way smoother, colors are better, and honestly, the graphics are gorgeous. It is very good if you want the original experience.
It's all 3D graphics now, right? For that Resurrection.
Yeah. Like a single player, like it's a good experience if you wanted that. But I would say if you wanted an online community and the more advanced version, it's Project Diablo just destroys everything. There's just so many builds, so many things to do, different leaderboards. There's leaderboards for PvP, there's leaderboards for PvE, there's leaderboards for bosses, leveling, there's hardcore and softcore. There's servers for everybody for different regions so they can get like less laggy. It's just kind of unmatched. They have a full auction house, and people directly message you off the auction house in game. So while you're playing, you get a message straight from the auction house from the person. It's like better streamlined than a AAA game can even figure out, which is crazy.
Okay.
Like Path of Exiles.
Were you guys able to see the Reddit comments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Taking out a gander out of them now.
All right, Scullion, do you mind reading the first one for us?
Just any of them or the very first one?
I mean, you could choose one if you want.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's simple. You don't just, let me see, COD ZRX said it's simple. You don't just chase item levels. Some early game items are really good into late and end game. A lot of newer ARPGs get way too deep and intricate. D2 is very easy to understand. I just got done playing some D4 last week, and that game is pretty, and monster slaying is kind of satisfying, but the gearing is boring and uninspired. Everything is eye level and +1 this and -2 that. It's boring. Plus, the gambling on tempering and whatnot is just not a fun system. The team that created D2, the studio that created D2, is long gone. Yeah, that would be Blizzard North.
Yeah, it would have been Blizzard North.
True story.
So do you guys, how do you feel like that comment's right about D4 versus D2?
I think we've all been playing D2. We haven't played D4 yet.
Okay.
I've played D4.
I played D4. Shamefully. Yeah.
Just trying to help you out, bro.
Blizzard can jump the shark pretty hard, but if they make a Diablo game, I'm probably going to play it.
Yeah, like any Diablo game I'm going to try and play. I'm just a sucker for it.
Yeah. I know D4 is not a very popular game, especially compared to D2. It just, for everyone's like, D3 didn't hold up, D4 didn't hold up, and I'm not really sure maybe they would have to change the itemization to make it kind of like I guess a better experience, but I don't know. I never played it.
As far as a one and done game goes, I honestly think that Diablo 4 was better than Diablo 2. The cinematics were better. The cultivation,
like just to play through the story.
Yeah, like that. The actual story is better. Being able to see your actual character in the cinematics, like holy shit, it's wonderful in that aspect. The music's
I enjoyed the story as well.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Blizzard didn't really care about cultivating their lore until after they started developing Diablo 3, because they were like, what kind of story do we want to tell in Diablo 3? So they had to take a lot of things from Diablo 2 and just kind of throw them away, or like change them a little bit. And yeah, Diablo 3 is when they actually started caring about a continuous story, and Diablo 4 iterated upon that.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, the story was great. The music, what was that on with the druid? When you fight the old lady, like that music, and when you the speech that she says, I thought that Mephisto played a really cool part in it. Like it's good. Like just the in game and the community and how you play with each other they just kind of can't get that figured out anymore. But the story was great, I thought.
They also can't balance PvP because they're trying to allow people to see 1 million damage on the screen.
True.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a lot of comments like that on Reddit where it was like, the reason the game is good is because it's a giant slot machine. Like that's what people kept saying, is because it's a casino game. I get that. I mean, I get that, but I don't think that's like all there is to it,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I kind of feel like there's
slot machine games and slot machine apps and just taking advantage of addictive behavior.
My bigger concern here is like seeing how many people were children playing this game. My goodness, don't their parents talk about them with mature games? Goodness.
Yeah, you think that's like part of the reason there's like casino addiction is because of Diablo 2? They contributed to
sports gambling now.
I just can't get away from it. I can't get that high that I got with Diablo 2. But yeah, I think there is more to it, but I know that dopamine hit is something that people chase for. They're like just waiting for that drop. They're just waiting for that drop there. And then once they get it, they're like, yes, so I know that's a big part of the game, and that's a big part of what brings people back. I don't think that's all there is to as we've kind of already stated, that's not all there is to the game though. Yeah. Okay. Well, I kind of want to wrap things up. I just want to thank you guys for everything you've done today, and reading the comments and putting your input and talking about your experiences. I want to thank you for coming on to the show. You guys have been awesome, and I really appreciate your time, and it's been great.
I appreciate the invite, man. I really do. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I forgot. I want to let you guys plug your socials too. Scullion, you had a YouTube channel you wanted to plug?
Yeah, I got a YouTube channel. I do quite a bit of animation, graphic design, all kinds of digital media out there. Just have a look-see. I'll post it on my little guy here.
And then Adam, you had an Instagram?
Yeah, I am Adam_with_yo-yos. Or Adam with yo-yos on Instagram.
And did you want to plug your Twitch, Gage?
Oh, it's all right. Like I'm not streaming right now. I could plug my music stream that I am putting up though.
Oh yeah. You got a YouTube channel now. Yeah, go ahead and plug that.
Yeah, you can find me on Milieu Beats. We're doing songs drop in every 12 hours. We drop a new song. They're all royalty free. If you ever want to contact us, we actually can make music too. That's it.
I've actually listened to some of the soundtracks. They're pretty good. So check those out, guys. And they're royalty free, so you can use them in your content or whatever you want. So it's good music. All right. Well, thank you guys again. And until next time. Well, folks, that's game over for this episode of Retro Reloaded. Thanks for joining me on this retro adventure. If you loved today's trip down memory lane, then consider helping me keep the nostalgia alive by supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/retro-reloaded. You'll get early episodes, bonus content, and a chance to pick the next game that we reload. Feel free to let me know your thoughts about the podcast, and until next time, keep those controllers charged.